Once upon a time, in a peaceful village called Amazolo, there lived a couple named John and Kate. They were known throughout the village for their kindness and hard work. But there was one thing they wished for more than anything else: a child of their own. After many years of waiting, their prayers were finally answered. Kate became pregnant, and the whole village rejoiced with them. One hot afternoon, while Kate rested under the shade of a coconut tree, she gazed up at the mountain that bordered the village. At the heart of the mountain's forest stood a tall African star apple, Udara tree, its branches heavy with ripe, juicy fruits. But this was no ordinary tree. It bore its fruits in the dry season, when no other tree could produce apples. And everyone knew that the tree was guarded by the mysterious and feared Ojili, an old woman who lived deep within the forest. Ojili was powerful and a bit unpredictable. Stories of her strange powers and her control over the star apples kept everyone in the village far away from the mountain. No one dared to touch the fruit, Udara Ojili, no matter how tempting it looked. But as Kate's eyes lingered on the apples, something strange happened. She craved them desperately, so much so that she couldn't eat anything else. John, her husband, was beside himself with worry. "My dear," John asked one evening, "what can I do to help you? See how you have lost so much weight." Kate, weak from hunger, whispered, "I need those apples, John. If I don't eat Udara Ojili, I'm afraid something will happen to me and our baby." John's heart sank. Asterisk. Those apples, Udara Ojili? Even the bravest hunters avoided that side of the forest. But John loved his wife and would do anything to see her happy. So one night, when the village was asleep, John crept up the mountain, his heart pounding in his chest. With every step, he imagined Ojili jumping out of the shadows to curse him, but he pressed on. Finally, he reached a tree, picked a basketful of the star apples, and rushed home. Kate devoured them with joy and soon regained her strength. But after a few days, her craving returned, stronger than ever. Once again, John set off for the forest, this time even more nervous. As he reached for another apple, a cold breeze swept through the trees, and suddenly, there she was, Ojili herself standing behind him. "How dare you steal my apples?" she boomed, her voice as deep as thunder. John's legs turned to jelly. "Please, forgive me," he stammered. "My wife is pregnant, and she craves these apples. If she doesn't eat them, she might lose our baby." Ojili's sharp eyes narrowed. "I will let you take as many apples as you wish from now onwards," she said slowly, "but only on one condition. When your child is born, you must give her to me. Do you agree?" John's heart stopped, but out of fear he agreed, praying that somehow things would change before the baby arrived. Months passed, and Kate gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. The couple and all their well-wishers were very happy. They named the child Treasure. However, their joy was short-lived. One night, Ojili appeared at their door. Without a word, she mysteriously took Treasure and vanished into the forest. John and Kate were heartbroken. They couldn't live without their daughter, so they set out on a quest to bring her back. They went to the village chief and told him their sad story. The chief listened carefully and said, "That old woman has powerful magic. She has lived for many generations and knows many secrets of the forest. But there is one thing she cannot stand, the sound of a sacred drum." The chief gave John a sacred drum made from the finest animal skin and said, "Take this with you. Beat the drum at her gate and she may release the child." They stood outside her gate and beat the drum as loudly as they could. But Ojili was clever. She cast a spell to block out the sound and stay hidden in her hut. After many repeated days of drumming, John and Kate gave up but returned home, more determined than ever. Next, they sought out a young and famous hunter, Ken. who knew every secret path in the forest. Ken led them to Ojili's hidden compound, but as they approached her hut, she unleashed a powerful gust of wind that sent them flying back to their various doorposts. The couple then surrendered to their fate, but Ken wasn't one to give up easily. After many years, he started hunting in the forest more regularly, hoping to see the girl around. Little did he know that Ojili had long hidden the girl from the whole world. One day, he heard a beautiful voice singing sweet melodies that echoed throughout the forest. Enchanted by the voice, he followed it until he reached a very tall tree with a small hut hanging on top. He circled the tree, but could find no way up. Every day, Ken returned, listening to the voice and wondering how to reach the beautiful singer. One evening, he saw Ojili approach the tree. He hid behind the trees and watched as Ojili called out, "Treasure, my child, let down the vines. It's me, your mother." He saw a thick, long vine being let down from the roof, and Ojili climbed up to the hut. The next day, Ken came back and tried something bold. He stood below the hut and called out, mimicking Ojili's voice. Thinking it was Ojili, Treasure lowered the thick green vine and Ken climbed up. When she saw him, she was frightened, but Ken quickly calmed her down and told her the true story of her life, which Ojili had kept from her. He assured her that he would do anything possible to help her escape. Over time, the two became close friends, and together they hatched a plan. Ken brought a rope with him on each visit, and they slowly tied it together to make a very long and strong escape rope. But before their appointed day of escape, Treasure made a grievous mistake. While Ojili was rubbing beauty oil on her body, Treasure mistakenly said, "Mama, you're not doing this as fast as Ken." Ojili was shocked. "What did you say? Who else has been touching your body? Who is Ken?" She became furious, and out of anger, she threw Treasure far away into a wilderness, using her mystical powers. She sat back in the hut, waiting to deal with Ken next. When Ken arrived and called out to Treasure as usual, Ojili threw down the vine just as Treasure would do. Ken climbed the vine up to the hut, only to be met by Ojili. With one swift motion, she pushed him off the tree, and he fell into the thorns and shrubs. Fortunately, he did not die, but the thorns pierced his body and eyes. Ken lost his sight. Blinded and heartbroken, Ken cried and wandered the forest, calling out for Treasure. Days later, Ken wandered far away from the forest without even knowing it. While still wondering where he was, he heard a familiar voice singing again. It was Treasure's voice. He followed the sound, calling out to her, "Treasure." Hearing Ken's voice, ran towards him. When they found each other, Treasure's heart was filled with joy, and she hugged Ken tightly, shedding tears of joy. As her tears fell onto Ken's face, something miraculous happened. His sight returned. Overjoyed, they embraced, and Ken told Treasure, "Now, we must return to your real parents, John and Kate. They have longed to see you all these years." With excitement and hope, Ken and Treasure set out for Amazolo village. When they arrived, John and Kate could hardly believe their eyes. They hugged Treasure tightly, tears flowing down their faces as they thanked God for bringing their now fully grown daughter back to them. The entire village celebrated Treasure's return. Ken and Treasure eventually got married, and they lived happily ever after, surrounded by the love of their families and the entire Amazolo village.
If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe so you never miss a tale that'll make you smile. And remember, the next story is just around the corner. See you soon.